Hello and welcome to the eighth episode of When I Was Your Age. I'm your host, Roland Parker, and as always, it is a joy, pleasure, and a treat to have you here today. Excited very much about today's guest, Jackie Eul. She's one of my good friends from college and good friends, period. So I'm really excited to get talking with her and catch up in a lot of ways. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. Make sure that you follow the Instagram at WIWYA pod. Shout out to Luke Wheat. He mentioned that he refers to it as WIWA. So if you feel that's a good fit, I say go for it and follow along with Luke there. But we are currently at 418 followers on Instagram, and a big thank you to everybody who's supported us so far. It means a lot. Make sure to send in your questions via DMs or email. And thank you to everybody who has done that already. All right. Well, without further ado, so we're going to bring Jackie in here. Jackie, how's it going?
Hello. Big ups to Luke. WeWa is to stay. It is here to stay.
WeWa is for the people. WeWa's to stay. I like it. I was listening to, so he said it on his podcast, obviously, and I heard him say it, and I was like, huh. I don't know. I don't know that I've heard anybody refer to my podcast in shorthand yet. So I kind of like it. I think it's a good way to get it all out there. Because it can be a
It's like
mouthful.
a good hey, you catch the latest. You catch 8 of WeWa. Oh yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah. It was good. It was good.
It's good.
Oh no, I haven't gotten it yet. I'll have to check it out. No, that's awesome. All right, so it's kind of let you know, but we'll get into some get to know you questions. But if you're not already, make sure that you're following Jackie on Instagram, which I've thrown up here in the banner for those watching. But so let's get started with some get to know you questions. Where are you from, and where do you currently live?
Well, first, I'm so grateful that, and you know this, but in college I went by Jack Daddy, and that was also my Instagram handle. So I knew it was going to be important that when you enter the, your career, that you should change those things.
Right.
Maybe I regret it. I don't know. How funny. That's the first time that I've ever thought that would ever be, shown up somewhere. But I'm from the west suburbs of Chicago, and I live in Knoxville now. I've lived in Maryville up until this last year. So I'm in South Knoxville now, but.
Nice. Very cool. And I got to check out your pad a little bit before we moved, and it's very cool. So let's see how is the dog, first of all. So that's not on my script here, but I had to ask.
Little Louie, he came out of the blue. I feel like even though we fully made this decision, when parents don't plan a child, that's what it felt like. It was all of a sudden, I was blacked out walking in Walmart, buying a dog bed, buying a cage, getting dog food, those kinds of things. And then all of a sudden I was holding him and I was like, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it's been so much fun.
Good.
We have been way more responsible dog parents than I ever thought. Give that up to Michael too. He's done a lot of research. I've done a lot of TikTok research. That's where I fall. And so I will send the videos and he'll be like, no, that's really bad. You shouldn't. And I was like, okay. Well, just know that now we're having a conversation about it.
Yes.
He is so good. 10 months, a terrier whippet mini greyhound mix. Lots of energy, but just as much love. Love.
And colloquially known as a WeWa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A WeWa.
Oh my gosh, too good. Well, I'm excited to meet Louie sometime. He seems like a sweetie. So tell me a little bit, what do you do?
I am the director of the nonprofit Fit Green Happy, which is the nonprofit arm of the place that we met, Mountain Challenge, the outdoor adventure hub at Maryville College. So that's half of what I do. And then I'm the office and marketing coordinator for another nonprofit that also happens to have offices at Maryville College. It's called Leadership Blount. And so I've found, and I kind of knew it would have a lot of crossover, but man, it's like just this nonstop web of like, basically all trying to get to the same stuff, like empower people to do, good things 24/7. So
Yeah, that's great. And kind of being ingrained in that community for a time, I can see so much of how those connections would be there and how those goals are often common and stuff like that. So I'm excited that you wear those hats and wear them so well. Um, how old are you?
I am 27. Yes.
Nice.
Do you forget your age?
I do. It's easier for me to remember because tomorrow I turn 27. It's as of late, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I gotta put it in my calendar. Hold on.
nice. It's a good deal. That's
Yay.
um, as I like get closer to my birthday, I'll do like an audit of like how old I am and how old I'm like meant to be. So
Yeah.
um, so yeah, it felt really odd because I don't know if you had this experience, but 27 feels substantially closer to
30.
30 than 26 does, even though it's just by a year. Like it feels like I don't know. I feel like I'm entering into late 20s. And I don't necessarily
Yeah.
feel I still in a lot of ways feel like I'm 22. Um,
Does
so
that does being closer to 30 make you nervous? How do you
not
feel?
really. Like
Yeah.
aging doesn't really intimidate me that
Yeah.
much. I feel like it's something to be embraced. Like I'm gonna do what I can to stay young in other ways, physical activity and just like being being joyful and stuff if I can.
Yeah.
Um so no, I don't know that I feel I'm not like really like afraid of it or it doesn't make me feel any particular way. It's like, uh, I don't know that I necessarily have the qualifications to be 30. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's odd. I don't know if you've had that experience, but what is your take?
I don't think 30 does not scare me. I have said for years 30 is the new 21. And I feel that because of things like Botox and lip filler, but also because we're all going to live until we're like 120. So, like, why not celebrate 30 like we did when we were 21? I might stay up until like 11 on my 30th birthday. Might get
Nice.
crazy. 11:30. I'm not afraid of it though. It's exciting, but I do forget. And I still feel like a child because as soon as I hit, right? So, like, you were 26 and 6 months, and then you, in your head, you still treat it like you're like 7, and you're like, oh, well, I'm 26 and a half. Like, I'm basically 27, you know?
Right.
I've been saying I'm 28 on accident because in my head, I'm like, no, I'm basically 28.
Well,
And my
basically
birthday's in
20, right?
September. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
that's
excited. Aging is fun. Birthdays are fun. Happy
birthdays
early
are fun.
birthday.
It's a
That's it.
thank you, thank you. It's a yeah, um I'm very thankful for Tabby because it's like we were traveling a lot for a wedding. It was her sister. Shout out to Holland and Bubs. They got married. It was
Yay!
very fun. It was a super fun time.
It looks
Everybody
so much
looked
fun.
everybody looked awesome.
Yeah,
There was like a little bit of weather, but it washed over for the most part.
yeah.
Super fun, like bridal party. Loved getting to hang out with everybody and family and stuff like that. But but because of like all that was like a lot of like my mental space. And Tabby was like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" And I was like, I don't know. And she like made
Yeah,
me like make a little bit of plans after when we were like in the car back. I was like,
yeah,
okay, all right, cool.
yeah.
Thank you for
That's
advocating
half
for
the battle, the mental load. That is half of the battle, like, figuring out, like, and then you make the decision, you're like, "Okay, I just gotta drive there,"
yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. So it's yeah, so that's good. I'm excited to hang out. I'm smoking a lot of meat tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah. So well the uh I was thinking about this today. I don't know if it's a TikTok or a meme or whatever, but like when you become a dad, you either get really into World War II or you get really into smoking meats. And
Oh,
so and I'm so glad I it made me think of like a TikTok and where you get like a sorting hat situation. Like you find out like
yeah.
once you have your first child, then you find out like which grouping you fall into.
Oh my God.
Um, so so funny, but a lot of fun. It takes up all day.
Yeah.
And she was like, "You want to do that like for your birthday?" I was like, "Yeah, it's like a fun like project." And I'm just like doing that. This is I don't know. It's
I
a
love it.
fun little like fixation situation.
I love it. I love it. There's nothing like checking off a box on a regular day. Being able to say on your birthday, on a Friday, to check a box and be like, yeah, I accomplished this hard thing. And look how good, juicy, and smoky it tastes. Like, I do get it.
Yeah,
Get it.
absolutely. I'm excited to get it going. I did stress myself out of it a little bit because we've got some people like coming over. And I'm like, "Oh, shoot, what if I give everybody food poisoning?" Which I'm not going to,
Yeah.
but
Why
but,
would you not?
so I'm like, but what if I did?" I'm not going to, but I might. So I've been kinda playing that through in my head. Um, wow, I was trying to figure out how we got there, and then I looked at my screen, and it was the "how old you are" question. Um, what piece of media are you currently enjoying? Be that a book, podcast, TV, etc. Anything that you and Michael are watching together? Anything that you and Louie are watching together?
Yeah. Mm. I'm in a book club, but I haven't gotten the book yet. So I'll say what I just finished. Um, I just listened to, because I'm on audiobooks right now.
Okay.
Little Fires Everywhere.
Yeah.
Which was turned into a Hulu show,
Yes.
what, in like 2019, 2020-ish?
Yeah.
And so now I'm watching the show because I wanted to compare. I tried the show when it first came out and I was like, okay, it just doesn't pique my interest right now.
Sure.
But I have found myself, this is so interesting. The last book that I read, like actually read, because like I said, I'm into audiobooks right now. So our last book club book, and then the two that I've listened to since, the overarching theme, and I just saw Barbie last night, and this had a little touch of it.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I've not seen it. I want to really bad. I've not seen Oppenheimer either. But the marketing is working.
It's
For me, I want to
working.
see it.
It's working. But the theme is like the complicated relationship between a mother and daughter.
Okay.
And I mean, like I was just picking these from random. So that's just been really interesting lately. And then I, picked up a memoir. I'm not a memoir person, but
Mhm.
I heard someone on a podcast. Her name is Ashley C. Ford. I heard her on a podcast and I was like, oh, let me listen to her book. And it was all about her complicated relationship with her mother. And I was like,
Oh, interesting. It's a
what's going on
you
here?
just keep recentering to that. That's so funny.
Yeah. But that's my current, I guess that's that's my current media that I'm ingesting is
Nice.
yeah.
That's good. I think kind of height of COVID, I read Little Fires
Oh
Everywhere
yeah.
and watched the show, and I don't remember what order that I did it in.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I enjoyed them both. Actually, I don't know that I watched the show. I
Still
think
on Hulu.
I think Tabby might have watched it without me, so I like caught some clips here and there, and I
Sure.
was like, "Oh, is this the part when?" And she was like, "Yeah," and then that was kind of it.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but I definitely read it, and I think I have seen clips and stuff.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, that's good because Reese Witherspoon is like a big book gal.
Big book owl. Mhm.
She's got like Reese's book club or something
And
like that.
yeah, and they hit every time. So good. If you're out there just like, gosh, I don't know what to read, just pull up her little, I think she has a website. Or just look for that. There's like a little, trying to look if any of my books have them on there. No, because I'm an audiobook girl now. That's who I
Yeah,
am.
right.
There's like a little emblem like right on there. They're
It's
so
like a
good.
badge of like with Reese Witherspoon
Yeah.
like thumbs up like part of Reese's book club. So you should
Yeah.
read it. Nice. That's cool. I would love to have that level of credibility for like anything. Like
I
I get like a stamp or a sticker or something.
roll and approved.
Yeah. I don't know what
Um,
it would be.
I was scrolling on Instagram the other day, and I'm getting ads for customizable teacher stamps where you can
Mm,
send a picture of yourself like going like this, and it says like Mr. Parker says good job or whatever it says like around the thing. I would buy 12 if I was a teacher. I
yeah,
would use that so often.
it's a yeah. I got a little bit of that feeling from we have like return stamps, like for doing the return address for work, um, and obviously it just makes that portion of the job if I have to mail something like that much easier.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, if this had like my accolades or just my signature or something, that would be so cool. But
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
about that. I think about that often. Might have to get some just for fun. Get some Weewa stamps just for I don't know what we'll use them for, but we'll find out.
Well, kind of.
Let's see. Oh, this is a question that kind of came to my head when we were um working at the Great Smokies Experience together. So I feel like I remember being in the dining hall at Tremont, and we were sitting around with Dr. O'Gorman and Dr. Sover, who also has a podcast, by the way. I don't know if you've listened to it.
Okay.
And I just kind of came to me, and I wanted to know what everybody thought, because I thought it would be a lot of like the same thing. But what is something you'd consider a luxurious necessity? Because in my head, the answer for most everybody was going to be coffee or tea or something like that. But then
Yep.
I've gotten a lot of like different answers like from guests on the show. So it's been really cool to see a lot of people's different takes, because I had a very specific like understanding of what I thought it might be.
Sure.
But then people would turn around, and like Jasmine, she said a car. I was like, oh, that's such an interesting like
Yeah.
thought. Like it was like very different from like what I had in mind with how I asked the question. And then the way she took it, I was like, wow, that's such a good answer. So
Yeah.
I've liked getting to hear all that to say, what's something you'd consider a luxurious necessity?
Well, I think I've listened up to your friend Blair, and
Mhm.
it's, I mean, I've been convinced like I might put an espresso machine on my Christmas list.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so I don't have one. And I thought about it when I was listening, at least to Blair's and Sam's. Um, and I'm sure something came to mind, but let me think. Um, there's different luxurious necessities in your work life and in your home life.
Mhm. Sure.
Um,
So maybe something that like
well,
it's a
well,
aids in like your work process a little versus like at home, like something that's like a part of your routine, or like some
exactly.
fuzzy slippers or
That's what I was gonna say. I'm a house slipper gal,
oh, okay.
and I
All right.
feel like that is a luxurious necessity to me because it's routine. It's a part of like when I get out of bed, like slippers are on, and if I'm walking around with like because we have all hardwood, you have all
Mhm.
hardwood too.
That's it. Yeah, except for this room.
Chilly little toes.
Yeah.
No, thank you. But well, my first thing, so yes to house slippers, but at work, um, my boss went to buy envelopes. This was like last year.
Mhm.
And I'm not a picky person when it comes to how things are done at work. I'm like, whatever's fastest, whatever gets the job done. I don't. He almost picked up envelopes that I had to lick instead of the
Mhm.
peel it off.
Yeah.
And I was like, who do you think I am?
It's a yeah. I've had those before. I had like a pack of 50 that I had to work through, and I was like, mm-mm, I won't be
Mhm.
doing this again.
No, you need the little film that you can rip off,
Yeah.
and that's a
I peel it
luxurious thing.
off and stick it for the one time. Yeah, I don't need I've that's a I don't need to clock in at the slug factory to get my envelopes mailed.
Okay.
It's too much. That's a great answer. Yeah, shout out to all the peel and stick envelopes.
Mhm. I hope that guy got a raise when he was like, "Wait, guys."
So
This is a little gross.
this is a little bit yucky. Um, all right. Do you have any bits that you're doing? A big example. Let me offer one up from Gray Gray. I said this in the last episode, but whenever we like open the door in the car, she like pretends to be asleep, but she's like kind of like smiling and giggling. She's like, all right. Oh, are you sleeping? And she like,
Oh,
so
gotcha.
she'll look up and then kind of like close her eyes again, like, haha, you thought I was sleeping. So it's very funny. It's funny to everybody, to her, to me.
That's a universal baby bit that
Hmm.
isn't taught. Like she didn't see that somewhere. She was just like, this is funny to me.
This is funny. Yep, exactly.
Um a bit, I think me and my sister probably have the most bits. Um and I think like a consistent one, and this is blossomed since I've moved away, is faking like the Hallmark nostalgia coming home. Like I'll come, it'll be like Christmas, so I'll be here for the holidays, and I'll just come out, like wrap the blanket around me and be like, I'm home. And she's like, isn't it great? Isn't it great? And so I could call her and be like, I see you and I on a farm, a girls' weekend. Oh, how great. And
Oh,
we'll just like keep playing, and she's like, there's wine. And I'm like,
of
always.
course. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. I love just like the archetypes like there, because there's like two for each protagonist in a Hallmark movie. So I have a big wig job. I'm going back to my small town, or I'm stuck in a small town because of a storm or travel kind of restrictions, and now I'm falling back in love, or in love for the first time, with this homie town with a lumberjack who's also a baker.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
perfect.
has 50 acres,
Yeah,
a beautiful house. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he's chopping wood, but
Yeah.
it is low key a millionaire somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very funny. I can see a lot of like how that would play out. All right, so this is also something that's rooted in us working together on the Great Smokies experience, and that is when we were working we're spending all this time with these youths in the mountains, driving all around in the van, and
My favorite part.
music is a big part of that. We want to fill some of the space there, so I would pose these questions to these kids to give them a prompt for a playlist, and whatever their answer was, I would add it in to this playlist. But one of the questions was, given the opportunity to replace the national anthem from any song that kind of jams and resonates with you, what song would that be? Tell me a little bit about that.
I I did think a lot about this question,
Okay.
and I wish a song came to me. I was trying to think of like a universal, like millennial song that like we would all appreciate like every time it came on, and like we're all parents, right? Like in our like 40s, and we're like, oh, those were the days. Gosh, but I couldn't. But what I've been listening to on repeat, and Michael, we listen to this podcast, so when he hears this, he's gonna roll his eyes because I've been nonstop playing it. It's Never Been to Spain by Three Dog Night.
Okay.
Only only for the line, well, I've never been to heaven, but I've been to Oklahoma. And it just makes me go, oh, like
Yeah. I've been to Oklahoma though. Oh, that's good.
yeah.
That's crucial.
Yeah.
I love that. Nice. Thank you for your input. We'll be adding that. So
That
it's
was my
a
favorite memory though with GSC. I need to, right, when I think of GSC, I think of, do you still have those playlists?
Oh yeah, I might I might have to just pull that open to really quick, because
I mean, like
So funny. All right,
Yeah,
let me see if I can figure out what the questions were that I asked these
that's
kids.
what I wanna know. What was the prompt? Like, can we piece that together from just looking at the songs?
Yeah. Okay. So um, this is the national anthem question. And a lot of these were really good. This land is your land. What do you got? Three. Highway to Hell. Uptown Funk. That answer really ground my gears. And it's it's making me angry thinking about it now. Welcome to the Jungle. Someone said No Hands, featuring Roscoe Dash, Waka Flocka Flame, Staying Alive, Jolene. Oh, that's an interesting answer.
Oh, okay.
Rockstar. Um, it's I won't say this one. I'll say the first word, Hot by Bobby Shmurda. Um, Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. I've heard that pretty commonly as an. I'm
Right.
pretty sure that was yours actually. Toxic by Britney Spears. That's a good one.
Oh my gosh.
Keep Your Head Up by Tupac. Fireflies by Owl City. This one was mine. Was the Shaba remix. That makes me giggle.
Fireflies?
It's a
I'm
yeah.
stuck I'm stuck
It's a,
on Owl City thrown into a possible national anthem. That is
yeah.
fantastic.
It's that's too funny. But yes. So a little bit about GSC. Well, actually, so you're the podcast guest. You tell me what was your take on GSC. Tell me a little bit about what it was and the youths that we
Yeah.
were with.
Yeah. So Roland and I worked together at, like I said, Mountain Challenge, and um, we support a program every summer. And Roland and I got to do it 2 years in a row, but it's high school students earning college credit by coming to Maryville College for, I think, 11 days ish, 11, 12 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Um, and it's a combination of, and we're with them the entire time, but it's a combination of experiences at the college with professors, and then they go to a nature education site in the Smokies called Tremont. And so we spend nights there in, nothing less than a giant room with a ton of bunk beds. And so Roland and I got really close during this time because you can't help but do so.
Yeah.
And we had to entertain ourselves because these kids were just wild in such a good way. They just cracked us up. I think that was like the first taste of Gen Z humor
Hmm.
that we were able to
You know
receive.
what? That might have been it.
You know what I
Quite
mean?
honestly, that's a great way to put it. Well, and it's so funny because like these kids are they're staying up. They're doing like classroom type material
Yeah.
all throughout the day. We're walking all over the place. We're doing so many activities packed into each of these days. It's really dense because it's meant to be an entire semester's worth of material.
Oh yeah.
It's all in this 10 or 11-day period.
Yeah.
And it just kind of seems like the weirdest and funniest parts of their id just come to the surface,
Quickly.
because
By
quickly
day two.
because
By day two.
because because like you don't have much choice but to like get to know these people because you're with them 24/7.
Yeah.
And they're tired and we're outside and we're doing like physically active stuff. And everybody's learning the same things like all together is it was so much fun, and oftentimes hilarious. But that was where the bit about um asking everybody in the room what song they would submit to this to a question or a prompt came from for me
Yeah.
was doing GSC. And I get to do it as a student. And it was when we did it, I think it was me and two other students.
You were the first, right?
I was the second. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, but then when Jackie and I did it as staff, I think we had like 9 and 10 and something like
Yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, very funny.
Yeah,
Oh,
we had good.
you know who actually did GSE with me was, Carter Dickinson. Or t
Nice. She was
she
one of the 3?
Yeah, she was one of the
Perfect.
3. Yeah,
Well,
we actually started with 4, but then a girl went home from Tremont, so it went from 4 to 3.
I
Yeah.
think that happened recently. I know, I see, like, the new groups come,
Mhm.
um, and I just, like, I try not to roll my eyes because, like, I'm trying to be supportive, but I'm like I suggested the playlist thing, and the, facilitators were like, "You know, and I was like, "Oh, whatever," but, it's funny, I've been
Yeah.
looking for what I still have are the, Roland and I would keep quotes that these kids would say, and we would just read them at the end, like, the very last day, and we would also award them, like, we gave them awards at the end, like, we would have
Right.
a final pizza party, and we'd be like, the winner of, I think one kid was, like, a walking meme or something like that, or, like,
Mhm.
I don't even know, but it's, like, way down in my notes, I can't find them. But some of these quotes, I'll run into it sometimes, and I'm like, "These kids, they're so."
It's that's that's too funny. Yeah, it's we gave him superlatives and stuff. That was one of the
Yeah,
funniest and most fun time, of my life, but I was so exhausted.
it was
By
the
the end.
most tiring thing ever.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I'm laughing because 'cause I'm looking at, some of the playlists now. Um, this one was called "A Van with No Wheels," and I asked them to give me a song to rock the wheels off of the Maryville College
Yeah,
van.
yeah, yeah.
That was good. Oh my gosh. Alright. Wow, how did we get there?
I don't
Oh
know.
my gosh, that was, the national anthem
What was the
replacement.
song? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you're saying "Never Been to Spain," Three Dog Night.
Yeah.
We'll add it to the list.
God.
I'm gonna keep a list going from all the guests. Hopefully, we'll get to, like, 50 songs, no repeats. That's, someday that'll be so fun. Alright, and we've touched on it a little bit, but last get to know you question, 32 minutes in, um, is how do we know each other?
Yeah, we touched on it, but yes, we worked at the same on campus, you know, worked for the college. Roland was a scholarship recipient, so he was deep in his program. I transferred, and so uh, yeah, it's Mountain Challenge is like hard to explain to people that have never had a job, like an outdoor job, because truly, how we opted into working is we sat in a circle on the back deck, and if we wanted to work, we raised our hands.
Mhm.
Am I right or am I wrong? How silly is that? Like
Yeah.
when I explain that to people, because I often have to talk to students, still work for Mountain Challenge now, and when new students are like, "Oh, how do I do this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, it's great because when midterms come around, just don't raise your hand." And saying that out loud is so funny to me.
Mhm.
If you don't want to work,
That's
just don't.
that's hilarious. It's yeah, it's a bit of a, um yeah, it's a I've never had that in a work environment before, so just kind of going through, like, "All right, here are the upcoming trips. We've got, we've got a ropes course,
Yeah,
on this day."
yeah,
It's like, "Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
I got it." And so
No,
and you guys are gonna do it together. Excellent. So that's good to know.
yep.
So we've got a tower, so I need, this many. All right. This.
Mhm.
Okay, you're coming, but you're gonna be a little bit late. Perfect. Anybody want to come to cover them for the first hour? Excellent. You're gonna do that, then you're into about. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a very, like, organic, like,
Yeah.
happening of, like, at these meetings, like, the staffing and role. And so, and yeah, very that's so funny. Wow. It's all kind of, like, flooding, like, back into me now, even
Right?
being
Yeah.
removed from that, from that space for a bit. Um, but good. Well, let's get into it. So, how did you first get started? And I guess we can touch on each of the hats that you wear. Let's say Mountain Challenge and Fit Green Happy, and Leadership Blunt. Like, how so let's maybe pick one and we'll kind of go in that direction for a bit, and we can circle back that way.
Yeah. I'll start with Fit Green Happy. So, the reason why I came to Maryville College was Mountain Challenge. And I feel like we are similar in that way. Like we found that program and we're like, okay, yep, this is it. Everything else is kind of, will fill itself in. And so that position, my work beyond Mountain Challenge, I really think it was one of those like, wow, you really came in at the right time and you were willing to, work for high fives and Skittles for a little bit. At the time as well, I remember my first year, there were a few seniors and maybe it was a fellow kind of initiative as well, but they kept on throwing around these 3 words, fit, green, happy, fit, green, happy. And when asked about it at that time, it's like, what is this? There were responses like, oh, it's a movement. It's a lifestyle like Patagonia. It is, it was all other things besides nonprofit, right? It was very far from that. And so it was kind of just a response to Mountain Challenge experiencing hardship. Because I walked into this. So there was like bad air quality. There was a lot of groups that were coming to Mountain Challenge at the time, I guess, that couldn't do the basic things that we were asking them, like walk into the woods for a little bit and all that stuff. And so at the time, the staff said, okay, we got to maybe become a fitness place. We got to think about being greener. And what comes with that is we got to think about mental health or happiness, fit, green, happy. And so those 3 words were being thrown around when I walked in. When I graduated, I happened to do, like, my internship was there. And I think it was just like, oh, you have made this really easy. You should just stick around and we'll like find money for you. So it's kind of inched its way into now I have made this position for myself at Maryville College, which has been really great. But yeah, like 3 years ago, and we have it has become all of those things, right? We even called it a movement at this time. At one time, we were like, no, it's a program, right? What was it? Until we eventually were like, this is the nonprofit arm, and this is how we're going to operate. And everything, it was like a lock system. It was like, yes, that's exactly.
So it clicked in that way.
Yeah, and so identifying myself as the executive director of this nonprofit has made my job so much easier because there's an outline for it. And now on the other side, I have a really great example with Leadership Blount on how it's 32-year long or running nonprofit should function. And what it means to make a budget for a nonprofit, how to pay attention to a board, because that's what a nonprofit is run by its board. So it was really cool as Fit Green Happy was forming to have that as a mirror and as a really well-oiled example. So for Leadership Blount, I took that job because I wanted to be at the college full time.
Mm-hmm.
And they just had offices. And then I was like, oh, heck yeah, I really like this. So I just do their marketing and office. I'm kind of like a right-hand person. So it's just me. They're both really, really small, which I love. I couldn't imagine working with more than like 3 people. Truly, I'm like, how do you do this? So yeah, it's just me and one other person on staff at Leadership Blount. And then, yeah, I'm one of 2 now at Mountain Challenge, management-wise, but yeah.
Yeah, that's so well. That's I never really thought about the example component of Leadership Blount with like being able to find in that all of the nonprofit examples, like here's the minutia, here's how it works here. I never thought about that as you being able to take that and apply that to Fit Green Happy. That's really cool. Yeah, so that's so awesome. And for me, I've always thought of you as a leader and a good point person for anything and everything. You've just always, if I'll kind of rag on Bruce in a way, in that he would just oftentimes give you like a very open-ended like question and directive, and it's as a student, you're or a staff member at Mountain Challenge, you're like, okay, um, I would like maybe a little bit more criteria to go from. I would like maybe a rubric for the what are your expectations here? And he's like, I've got none except for the end goal.
Yeah.
You make it happen. So that was always very intimidating for me, and I'm sure for you, but it seemed like, out of everybody I knew, you were the best person at, like, just going forward and, like, coming up with the question like, the initial answers, in that way. That was always a really hard thing for me. I would procrastinate, like, way too long, and just I would end up, like, coming to him and be like, I don't know that I have anything for you. Let me shrug my shoulders a little bit and to at you, but you always seemed very like actionable and like, all
Mm.
right, here's where we're gonna go. That's a we can pivot and go from here, but like here's my initial kind of thoughts. Like you seem to be able to like get get on the ground running much faster than anybody else I knew.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's so funny to think about, like, being a student and working for that organization. You described that so well. It is like, hello, right? It's the initial introduction. This is who I am. This is, again, like you said, this is the end goal. Go off.
Hmm.
That's what it was. Again, another thing that just you're like, how did this work for the last 36 years? You know, but I'm sure that he has not operated any different, you know,
Yeah.
from the start. So
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's one thing that I've really appreciated um, in my development as a student and just employee was because because of those moments where we were just thrown like in the middle of the lake. It's if I ever find myself in my current work situation where I don't have maybe a roadmap or like sense of structure to like adhere to for something, then I at least have like a little bit of muscle in the ability to like, all right, let me get my bearings,
yeah,
see what works. I'm gonna build some scaffolding for myself, and if it's no good, then we'll start over. But at least um, I can try stuff out at first.
yeah,
It's still not
yeah.
comfortable, and I really don't like it.
So terrible. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you have had that experience, but whew, it's it's a hard thing, and it's a little bit hard to quantify even now, like trying to put into words like what exactly what this looks like. Um, but I don't know. I found it really rewarding, and it was such a fun time, and that really challenged me in a lot of ways.
Well, I think the only reason why it works, and I think Mountain Challenge has spoiled us for so many reasons, right? Having relaxed management, having a relaxed workplace. The work itself was fun, but also the ability, even without a lot of guidance, to try something and to just like, I'm shrugging my shoulders here. Are we all aware that I'm shrugging my shoulders? I have no idea what's going on. To try something and be completely, aware that your supervisors have your back 1000% and you don't have to think twice about it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I will not tolerate in other workplaces. Like
Hmm.
if my supervisors don't have my back, if they don't have my front either, like if they're not, going out in the workplace and like, backing me up in that way and speaking good about my ideas in that way and letting me kind of go free and like, hey, trust me, like I'm over here making some weird creative decisions, but trust me, that's why it worked, I feel.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a trust there, and it was a bit like teaching a kid to swim. If it feels
Yeah.
like I'd say, and like I'm not gonna let you drown, but like it is gonna be hard. um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think it's had a very big impact in the way that I approach just professional relationships and projects and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But that's good. Um, this is something that's always been interesting to me, because I can think of a couple of examples outside of yourself of people that I've known in college that have since gone on to be faculty at Maryville College. So what has that transition been like for you? Is it a bit hard to separate that concept sometimes? Because you have so many memories of this place, and you've kind of always been there since graduating. So
Mhm.
what has that been like?
It was hard. I think that's a common um, fear when you transition, and you let no time pass. You let a summer pass from student to staff or student to
Mhm.
whatever position, but it's still at the same place. Because just 3 months ago, the people that you now have to delegate things to, you were hanging out with them like on the weekend.
Yeah.
Um, so that was hard. I don't think I did it well, in the sense where, because I didn't think about it much. Like, I wish I would have given it more thought
Okay.
and attention. But I just kind of wrote it off because in the back of my head, I said, this group of people will graduate and I will get a fresh start as soon as that batch leaves. Um, and I shouldn't have done that. So I think about that often. What I'm going through currently is there are so many people that made Maryville,
Mhm.
from faculty to the staff that you would see often, say in the career center, or um, like the student programming board, like all of those things. I associated those programs and like the small departments with those people,
Mm.
and there are so many people that have left.
Yeah.
And so the transition now is I am now becoming familiar faces to people, and
Whoa.
that thought is weird to me.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know?
I don't know that I'd ever really thought about it like that either, because for me, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know, like the sense of permanency of like who is there and was there,
Oh, yeah.
that that will always kind of be the same to me because I'm not
Yeah.
on campus. So for me, if I when I think back to going into the dining hall, it's always Miss Daisy greeting me.
Yep.
Like when I think of going to ethics, it was Jesse Smith.
Mhm.
Like when I think of like certain classes, like I can attribute those to people that like that's concrete, that's formed, it's not changing. But you're like seeing people come and go. Um, Wow, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kinda hard. I think for having, like, a special relationship with that campus, I feel like um, that'd be a hard thing. I've never thought about that before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the most recent thing. But it is, I mean, it presents a really cool opportunity too, because those new people then, initiate a meeting with you and they say, "Okay, you tell me how orientation's gone for, the last little bit." Like, I think Tyson's going through, those motions right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like we're throwing around like all these names, but uh yeah, it's opportunity, but like you just like I find myself having to be like, okay, shake off the weirdness, like don't accidentally say the person's name that was in their position before. Or also I
Mhm.
have to say like it's probably not cool to say, "Oh, well so and so did it this way for 10 years. So and
Right.
so did it that way for the last two,
Yeah.
rounds."
You wanna be
Um
respectful of the history and the tradition,
God,
but also be respectful of, like, that this new person has
exactly.
some
Yeah.
tact and some ability to carry things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh,
Mhm.
that's scary. Glad it's not me. Ooh. Oh my gosh, that's a wow. That's a I really liked talking about that just now. It's made me think about it in a very different way.
Mm.
What impact have you seen yourself making on campus and maybe in other positions as well? Like whatever you kind of take that question to be.
Oh, that's a cool thing to think about. Gosh, I think it's been really cool to have this small program that really, the way that I describe it to people is it's like the soft skills of an adventure program.
Mm,
And so people that are like deep into like, you know, tearing it up on a mountain bike and like climbing the highest thing you can climb, if they didn't have like basic fitness in line before, or if their like mental health is totally screwed, like, or if they're trashing the environment every time they like, go on site, what's the point?
yeah,
And
right.
so being able to connect the hardcore people to like the basic steps is really cool. And then also, I think, and I'll say I hope that my impact has made more students when they think, because Mountain Challenge can be intimidating, right? You
Mhm.
have this, like, we have a 60-foot climbing tower in the back, right? And if the highest I've gone is, like on a ladder, I'm not touching that thing.
Yeah.
But if I can make staff and students say that they're an outdoorsy person just because they decided to like take a walk on their break,
Mm,
or at least hold, the same importance, that like, they do that practice every day, right? Say they take a 15-minute walk on their break. That is just as cool. That commitment is just as cool as, you know, someone's ski trip that they take every year.
right.
I hope that that is the message that I, continue to send to the people that are at Maryville College.
Nice. Well, I can already tell you that that impact is real and is there. But I like a lot what you said about the connecting the hardcore people back to the basics. Because I don't for me, whenever I'm engaging in like a new activity, I like to like go very slowly with like mastering like the basics like first, and
Mhm.
like like making, in a way, those seem like automatic, so that when I'm progressing forward, I don't have to do any kind of backtracking. So to make that like not a big deal, like, oh, like if you've got to go back and fix like your fundamentals, it's no big deal, we'll just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
it's a we'll just do it. It doesn't matter, like if it's got to be done, then what, then there's no way around it. Let's just go at it. Like that's so, like I don't know, that's kind of freeing it in a way. So I really like that. That's such a cool thought.
Mhm. Yeah, I hear stories, I feel like, of, people having a really hard time. And I just think of athletes too. I mean, they're doing things that I was not a student athlete in college. And so they're doing things that I couldn't imagine. And then an injury happens. And so trying to introduce things like a meditation practice or even like stretching, right? This is like PT people of the world. They're like, I hear you. Stretching practices, right? Again, like those soft skills. And to watch that kind of click and say, like, oh, I'm used to like 5 a.m.s and, practices from 5 to 10, and I miss meals and I know what hard work is. But they're like, gosh, but sitting down and meditating for 10 minutes is hard and I
Hmm.
can't do this.
Yeah.
Seeing that click, oh, it's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
No.
yeah, we're on the same
So
page.
that yeah, that's awesome. It, I love kind of looping back and changing the whole framework about how you think. I think obviously talking with Pat and Luke on
Mm,
Keep Going, something that I hear pretty frequently on their podcast is just athletes having to change, um, their whole framework of their identity, and how they relate to physical activity, because for so long it's been like you said, the 5 a.m. workouts, the 2 a days, the really intense stuff and it takes a lot for them to get back to like, let me just go on like a really easy like run for like as long as I can.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, this is like mentally very hard and like physically so different. Like I'm so uncomfortable like doing
Mhm.
this. No, that's such a great thought. As I mean, I like hear and kind of see it all the time. I had kind of a similar experience with just like, I was not like a good athlete by any means. I did it because like my friends were there and like my parents said like, hey, like if you're not like, you need to have like some kind of organized activity that you're doing. It's like, okay, fine. But
Yeah.
it was not like a combative thing. It was just like, this is how it is. And they never had to like fight me on it. Um, but uh like it took a lot for me like in college to like change how I thought about physical activity and the way that I related to it. And I wasn't like a I didn't place in state. I like didn't even like letter and in anything. Like I was just like in that sport, and I was still experiencing
Yeah.
um a lot of that concrete, like just I don't know, just jammed up kind of thinking in that way. So that's such a good athletes, especially I feel like is a really good example of
Oh yeah.
that. Um let's see here. What would you say has been the impact of social media for your relationship with I've got the outdoors on here as my question, but I think a maybe a better question might be campus and Maryville College, or even just like professionalism. So like, if there's any of those that kind of resonate with you, what has been the social media impact that you've seen in professional life or life in working on a college campus, or what does that look like for you?
Mm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. Um, I don't know if I have had the chance to think about how it's impacted my relationship to the college. Um, but I will say for the first time, professionally, I've had to manage social media accounts for work.
Mhm.
Um, and not that I didn't believe people that were social media managers that it's a full-time job, right? I knew
Yeah.
it. And I would listen and be like, "Oh yeah, no, sure." Like I don't know how to do that stuff. And then I had to do it and I'm doing it so poorly. So very poorly because it's its own full-time job.
Yeah.
And so I because, like, I have to schedule, right? You hear about that when people talk about social media, right? When they have to do it for their job, you have to schedule times out, like, it is almost like a meeting, you gotta, make your post, and you gotta think about your caption and all that stuff.
Right.
So after I do it, man, I went out of the country this summer. I went out of the country, got a dog, and had this wonderful trip with 11 of my friends from back home. We did the bourbon tour in Kentucky.
Yeah.
I didn't post a single thing about it because I was like, oh, I can't imagine spending any more time on the
Yes.
phone doing that.
Oh my gosh.
And that didn't used to be me. I used to be really excited about because I think it's cool because I like seeing everyone else's. That doesn't mean I have stopped scrolling.
Yeah.
Oh, I have.
But I kind of get a sense of like there's an exhaustion to like putting something together that's creative and funny and like in like, oh, here's kind of what's going on with my life. Like when I put out a post recently for this wedding that we went to, and I was like
Yeah.
trying to think of something funny to say, trying to gather up all of the curate all of the pictures that summed up the weekend really well. And like by the time I like looked up, I
It's
was like,
bedtime. Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm tired. Also, I have been maybe neglecting my portion of being a parent because
Yeah.
the kids are just like around me, and I'm like not looking at them necessarily. So it's a lot. It like takes so much of your effort and your attention and your time. So I relate to that.
Mm. Yeah. But I mean, I do like the question about the outdoors too. Like
Mhm.
thinking about, and I don't know if recently, there's been an impact on my time in the outdoors, but I have found that that is truly spending time outside. When I get realistic with myself, I can lie to myself all day and call myself an outdoor professional and say, this is what I do and this is how I practice. When I get real with myself and think about the times that I don't have my phone in my hand or in my back pocket, it is when I am outside. So if I don't build outdoor time, and it sounds so, sounds like I'm talking to students, but I am so serious when I say this. If I'm not on a boat because I can't bring my phone on the boat, like if I'm not in a kayak, I don't. So I
Yeah.
have to. Or like Louis been a stinking blessing because I don't have like I can't put it in my running short. Like where my whole I gotta hold the treats and I gotta hold the dog bags and so I leave it at home. I didn't do that before. I mean, when I got real with myself, I wouldn't even want to know the count every time like what is the average number people check it like over 100 times a day or like just
Yeah.
check the time. I wouldn't even want to know my count.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like today, like I saw like so I went golfing with a friend, and there was like a marked like difference in like the amount of times, like even like per hour, that I was like engaging like with my phone. It was just like wildly different. Like even having it like in like the cart, like the little cup holder situation,
Yeah.
like it was, I don't know. It was much more. So like yeah, I like what you said about you have to. So you have to make time to where like you can't.
Mm.
If sorry, I'm not summing that up very well, but like have go scheduling the time, where you know that you're going to be outside, and making like setting up time for yourself
Yeah.
where you know that you're not going to use your phone or you can't or something like that. Wow, gosh, that took me a really long time to get there, but that's yeah, no, I
Yeah.
love that thought because it while it feels like it feels kind of defeating that like the only time I'm like not on my phone is if I like put myself in a position where I can't use it. It's like it feels like you're not
In control.
demonstrating good discipline.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you're like, all right, well, like I gotta this is the only way it's happening. So let me schedule this time out. Like that is like, it's a degree removed, but
Yeah.
but like that's how you're making it happen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I totally I relate to that. Yeah, it's that's a good way to
It's the same way, you know how people talk about, um, and I'll be conscious of time because I just looked at that little counter, but you know how people talk about processed food and how it was literally designed to be eaten in abundance and to be addictive, right?
Mhm,
Like that's what it was made for, and then, like you can't just eat one kind of thing.
exactly.
The way I mean, I think about it the same way, like apps and algorithms were made to keep you scrolling. So when I think about it that way, I'm like, the science be working. It ain't all my fault.
Yeah, it's a
It
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And there's a little bit of like, well, now I want to beat it. Like,
exactly.
it's like, oh, like they're trying to find me, and they're trying. I'm like, who? I this is bad, but sometimes I'll see a commercial, that's whatever product. I'm like, who's falling for this? They just want my money. And then I'm like, well, they wouldn't be spending money on marketing if it like wasn't working in some capacity.
Sure.
There's also a billion other things that like work on me too. So like for me to
I
be
know.
aware of like one component and be like, oh well, I'm not gonna let that me.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
So silly.
All right. Well, let's move into. I've got 4 questions from Instagram. We've used some of these before, but I really like the questions that people have brought forward. What is something that you regret not doing? That comes from Janie.
Something I regret not doing.
Hmm.
Learning how to ice skate.
Okay.
Because it's a common stinking sport in Chicago. And guess who the loser was sitting on the side like this? And then I would cry and I would make a fool out of myself. So I would only go with safe friends that
Nice.
would knock me
And kind of like walk like around the edge and stuff.
shuffle ice skating.
That's a good one. I like it. Good answer. If you were a kitchen appliance or tool, what would you be and why?
What a mountain challenge question. Um, kitchen appliance. I would be. I don't know. I don't think I'm used daily. Like I'm not a fridge. Um, maybe a electric tea kettle.
Okay. Gotcha. So you're thinking more specific in your scope of utility, like I'm gonna be right here.
I'm gonna be here, and you know when you need when you're like, God, what do I want right now? You're like, oh, a cup of tea. Like I'm that friend. Like, dang, oh, Jackie, yeah,
Hmm.
I'll call her.
Nice. Good deal. I like it. All right. Coke or Pepsi? Why?
Coke.
Speaking of processed foods designed to be addictive,
Perfect.
yeah.
I don't know if I have a why. Coke. I have memories. Coke museum. Is there a Pepsi museum? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Got Coke Museum. Easy answer. Love it.
Yeah.
Um, and what is your Waffle House order?
Ooh. Waffle House order. Pre gluten free. Pre when I had the freedom to order what I really want every time. Uh, I was introduced to grits moving here, and I didn't know I could get my grits cheesy.
Mm,
So as soon as I knew that, I would get a side of cheesy grits every time. Chocolate chips on my waffle. I will get a cup of coffee in that small little mug. The
yeah.
mug is so small. You get
It's
maybe 5 sips of coffee, and you have to ask for 4 different refills.
Yeah, it's so
Oh,
good. I just like the vessel though. I like little like cups that are approaching too small for like a tea or so. Like the ones at Tremont, honestly, like they were just
that's
like
good.
they're just like a little bit too small, not in terms of like practicality, but like
Yeah,
that just means that I can fill them up, and
and
if
just the smell of cooking grease every time you like, it's just a little outlined.
yes,
Yeah. Um, honestly, I'm happy with that. Like, the eggs and hash browns are extra, but, like, those are the staples. Those 3.
nice,
Yeah.
good deal, love that. All right. Well, I think that we can close it out from here. I've really enjoyed this time. So thank you everyone for listening to this episode of When I Was Your Age, or Weewa as it's known.
Wow.
Um, Rhoda, really appreciate your time. Make sure to follow Jackie and reach out to her if you've got questions about anything and everything Maryville College. She is the forebearer, arbiter, and keeper of all knowledge related to the Scots. But thank you again to Jackie for coming on the show, and we will see you again next time.
Aw.